Well, I didn't get Oasis tickets, but we are going to do Live Forever, a song which I've liked for a long time. There's a lot of complicated little corners in this that you wouldn't necessarily expect to see. One of my students wanted to learn this one, so I thought let's do the deep dive. Let's find out what's really going on with Noel Gallagher's fingerings on all the chords and the solo. Lots of stuff we can learn from this one, so let's kick into it now. Oasis and Live Forever. First thing to mention before we get underway is that if you listen to the album track, the tuning is slightly out from standard tuning. I think they recorded it in America, and what often happens in America is that the pitch for A is slightly higher. In the UK we use A440, in America sometimes they use A444, which is not that noticeable. This one's been recorded in A451, which means it sounds very high, so if you play your guitar in standard tuning, every note's going to sound like a clash. So what I've done is I've created a tuned version of the track to A440 so that you can just stay in standard and play along here with the guitar line. Let's start off with the chorus then. So you've got 4 beats, 4 bars to wait for the drums. So we don't do a lot there. We'll start off in bar 2 then, and we'll just run through the chords first of all before we do any kind of twiddles. There's a lot to explain about the twiddles, but anyway, on the album, the first time that the chorus is played, they don't hear any twiddles, any suspended notes or anything, you just get the chords. So our first chord is a G, and this G is played without the third in the second string, so the A string is actually muted out there, which has the effect of making it a G power chord, as like an extended power chord, because there's no third. The second chord is a D, but you don't have the second finger on the top E string, so you just have, again, having the effect of creating a kind of power chord-like sound. There's no major minor. Then you have an A minor next, followed by a C, and then a D. Don't play that top string like I just did. And then it comes again. And what happens if you watch any live version of this track, which I've probably watched about 4 or 5, there's not as many as you'd think there are, but in the live versions, the whole band are just strumming kind of a random pattern, something like this. So if you want to play along with it, just strum along with a pattern that you feel comfortable with. I've suggested down, 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 up, down, 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 up, so. Or another one is whatever feels comfortable to you. It doesn't make a huge difference. Now I'm going to change up here to this E minor chord, followed by the D, and then this time we hear, so it's, and you let the lower notes ring throughout that. You can also do this up picks if you find that easier. That can all be up picks if you like, but I prefer the alternate picking and the down motion. Over to the A minor, then the C again. Now this time, occasionally, Noli Noli does a different arrangement of the D chord. So instead of, he takes that C and just knocks it up 2 frets, dead note. So you get, so. That's a sort of variation which you can use occasionally if you like. Let's carry on, we're into bar 11 now. So again, we've got that little twiddle at the end, same as we had before in bar 7. And then we land on the same minor in bar 12. Now this is one of the most beautiful patterns of the kind of intro version of the chorus. You get now live they just go just play an F chord for 2 bars, but I like what you hear on the album. So it's the F, the C, and then the A, and the G at the top. Then it's an up pick, so, and drop to that open G string there, so. So chorus 2 is very similar to chorus 1 in terms of chord shapes, but we have many, many twiddles. So the first chord is the same, the G, with the 3rd missing on the A string, so that's just muted out with the 2nd finger. Now you have this little shape here, which Bonehead does. So it's quite a nice little twiddle. I've chosen to write it out here, but you can also play it up on the 12th fret if you like. So there's that kind of shape. If you so choose, but I just think it's a bit easier to play it down here because you don't have to go as far back to your next chord. But anyway, I'll leave that one up to you. The D, nice little twiddle onto the G and the F sharp, the kind of alternating between them. Then we bar 17 with the A minor. There's a lot more twiddles here on the album the second time we hear it. So that's easy. C chord, 2, 3, down, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we go back to, and then A minor, which hilariously in bar 21, if you listen to the album, is totally just nothing happens. So the next bit is quite interesting. You've got a C chord for 1 beat, so, and then you stick the 4th finger down to make the D on the B string on the 3rd fret there. So then you move up, then you do the 4th finger again. That moves over to this E minor with the G in the top, followed by the D. Then we're on to my favourite bit in bar 25. We've got the A minor. And then you have to do the E minor. But I like this sort of walking line. Then into this. You can play this one in the normal way you play E minor. Or if you need a bit of help to get up there, you can do the 1st and 2nd fingers. But I prefer sticking with the normal E minor shape. So bar 29 has an unusual G suspension that comes in later on the chord. So we've got the A minor. You have to lift off your 2nd finger. And then we go back to this F shape that we've had in the first version of the chorus. And then we're on to the solo. So the solo's in 2 parts. We've got the bit without the delay pedal and the bit with the delay pedal. So we're starting off with the without delay pedal section here. This is right at the end of bar 31, and you get... So there's a couple of interesting things here. You've got the first hammer on the D string on the 12th fret. Nice and straightforward. You've got this bend up and then release. Pull off. And that's the most interesting bit. That 14th fret on the D isn't picked. You just hit it with your finger. So the right hand is taken out after the first pick. And then it comes back in for... So the same rules apply every time that happens. So then you get... key to bar 34, by the way, is a down pick on the 14th fret with a second finger. So that's interesting. Then you've got this little doubling section. So what happens here on the album is you get that rhythm. When it's the live version, you get an extra couple of dead notes here, like you get. So that's a nice little addition to put in if you fancy it. Then you're sliding up to the 12th again. Same again, don't pick any of these following notes. Second finger on that 14th, so. And then you get this bit, so you get. And then we're going to put the delay pedal on. I'll show you the settings that I use on a digital delay DD3T. I just had to lean over there to put it on. But I think this is pretty accurate. So you're going to slide up to the 17th fret now. Let's take it exactly as it is. So slide up to the 17th with the third finger. So you've got those notes played up there. There's no real specific pattern. It just kind of sounds like a little bit messy. I don't mind if you hit different ones to the ones I'm hitting there particularly. It's not that important. But I hear on the album slide to the 17. And then in bar 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then that's held for 2. And then you get... So at the very end of bar 40, you've got this quaver that's held for the first semiquaver of bar 41. Then you've got up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. You've got first finger, and then a third finger there. So a little replacement there. And then you've got these sections here, so all down picks with hammer-ons. So you get... And then it goes up again, so you slide. Third finger, second finger, third finger. So all that's exactly the same. Then you've got these sort of rolling motifs here. The only thing that's extra there is some dead notes on the live version, so you get like that. Then we're in bar 48, so we get back to chorus 3, and our delay pedal goes off. That comes back on again in the outro solo, but now we've landed on chorus 3, which is very similar. So we've got this G again, a few little twiddles, or up here. Then we've got the D to the A minor. Same twiddle. D. And then we've got the A minor, and this really nice one, quite slow. Then there's this little bit here, which is a nice little over guitar line. Then we've got the D. And then we get this little twiddle as well. So we've got this little over guitar line now, so let's carry it on there. So we've moved up to the... And that leads us into the outro, which has this... the next following riff. So if you look at the outro, it's very, very repetitive at the start. You've got this A string, then you've got this F chord, and then there's a slight change because the octave is higher here. So that carries on until the second guitar kind of comes in with one time of that. Then this repeats all the way around and round to bar 76. And then we've got the outro solo. So let's put our delay back on. And we have a 7th fret release on the G. And then we get... So that's a nice little move. Third finger, first finger. And then we get this little pattern here. And then we have the repeat of... And Noel does actually play that as well as doing the solo, so it is included. And then the next one on bar 83 is... And then we've got this little unusual chord here. So it's a little kind of pattern around that shape here, this chord. And then the final little notes is how the outro finishes. But an interesting little... So worth getting your head around that one. That's the outro for Oasis. I hope you enjoyed the solos and the in-depth dive of the outro particularly, because not many people tackle that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in another video. In the meantime, peace out, and we'll see you next time.